Believe it or not, I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Slate. The world is still all a stage, and I keep falling off the steps. But at least I'm recording an episode now, so let's get into it. Now time for some interactive fun. Okay, like I said, if you can't believe it, I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Late. I'm still doing this crazy story-driven, story narrative podcast where I come up with a story and ramble on about strange happenings. What did I call it? The Story Creative Podcast? Yeah, I think that's what I landed on all the times ago that I came up with that tagline for this podcast, I should say. But in this episode, the story idea that I finally pushed myself to create, because it's probably been over a month since I've done the last episode. Real life, go figure. But recently, or it's been grouped together recently, there's been a lot of missing. It's being called out in the grouping of there's been a lot of missing, for lack of a better specific term, scientists or people in the U.S. with top secret clearance and top secret jobs have gone missing or have been killed under weird circumstances, and is being grouped together. Like I said, a lot of people like who work at top secret facilities in the desert and had top secret clearance were scientists themselves or pilots or working on what was considered UFO or what could have thought have been UFO or unidentified projects. Like I said, top secret, need to know, only they would know, but have gone missing. And I haven't gone down the full rabbit hole yet because, the back of your head worry, like if you deep dive into this, your internet browser history, all of a sudden it will shine a light and people realize you might find out the truth and you'll be, the next person ends up disappeared. That wild conspiracy theory thing where you're like, what if I found out the truth and then the people who know the truth find out that I know the truth? What will happen to me? Because like scientists, people with top secret clearance and all that stuff and really long resumes, I mean, they're going to make a wave if they go disappearing. But like a weirdo like me who does a podcast, I don't think anybody would come. They're not going to make a podcast about me who made a podcast about finding out the truth, going me vanishing. That won't make much waves. Okay, like I said, I was been peeking into the rabbit hole. I haven't done a deep dive yet. Also, because if you do a deep dive, then the reality of it probably will break the mysticism of this story and the grouping of like, oh, they're scientists or they're working on UFO research and all that stuff. And then you realize that, law of large numbers, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people who have similar clearances who work in military or high intelligence places in the U.S. alone. And that 10 or 12 or 13 people who go missing or die isn't really a big average or something that should be grouped together like it's something going on. There's, we have hundreds of thousands of people in a group, a couple of people dying. Well, for me, it does stand out because it does group together for humans. We try to look for patterns and group things together and find explanations of it. But it's interesting to me because I love deep diving into conspiracy theories and mysteries. But of course, I'll never find the truth. Nobody will find the truth. The truth is probably like, oh, they were trying to create some kind of energy thing and a big, huge, multi-billion-dollar government-controlling company was like, oh, no, you won't. No free energy for humans. Icarus, you need to burn up in the sun. That's probably what happened. But I am on the creative side of this, the weird creative side. So, of course, I have the creative story based on what's truly happening in the world. Amongst the other terrible things that's happening in the world right now, kind of the reason why it's hard for me to do a creative podcast. Okay, we're not going to dwell on what's going on in the world. We're going to try to find the bright spots. So that's what I do with this podcast, the Story Creative Podcast, Dumb Test Late, that you're mysteriously listening to. How did you find me? But I'm glad you're here. So with those stories, not all of them, like the one that I recently heard about was person went missing, Melissa. Her last name is Casis. She went missing. She had like a top secret clearance in some research research facility in New Mexico when she went missing under like really weird circumstances where um, she was at home. She left work, or she didn't go to work at the top secret facility. She told people she had to go home and get something, and then she ended up disappearing. Her phones were wiped, like factory reset, and then she was later seen randomly on like CCTV footage walking down the street or something like that. And there's all this mysterious side sightings with her children and her partner at the time. So that's the one that kind of pushed me into the rabbit hole. It's like, let me create something from all of this. Because like I said, I'll never figure out the truth. Who will? No one will. Even if you figured out the truth, it probably would be too boring or hard to believe. So grouping that with all these missing, let's just say scientists to keep it easy, I wanted to create some stories. So I was saying like all these, if we say disappearances or mysterious deaths, they're all related because all of these scientists in their research, maybe it was with UFOs or quantum computing or something like that, they found out something. I'm getting into my I'm not trying to solve the mystery. I'm getting into the fiction part of it, the story creative part of it, as you will. So let's take all these scientists. Let's say they found, if you're watching a movie, that's how it will be set up. They found something in their research with UFOs or quantum computing or something like that. There's 3 story ideas. Sorry. This is the first one. Okay. They're in some way related because they all these scientists have mysterious or accidentally seen past the veil to another dimension or a mirror dimension or, multiple dimensions, the bubble theory or wherever there is out there. And they saw a mirror alternate dimension of themselves and another version of themselves that split off, or a completely different version of themselves. Whatever research they were doing, they saw that. They saw the portal, they saw the mirror version, they saw whatever. But doing that kind of created a signal or made themselves be seen to this other version of themselves, which is not good. It's like that whole thing that Stephen Hawking was saying with, we shouldn't reach out to aliens because if we do, we send out a signal of here we are. If aliens are not friendly, they're going to come destroy us. So these scientists and these research people working in these top secret things, they see past the veil. They see themselves in another dimension, and seeing that basically gave their signal, their other selves the signal of where they are in this version of the earth, which turns out isn't a good thing. So this story would be a horror story or a action story where I'm stealing from the show Community in the darkest timeline. The other versions of themselves that they see jump over to this reality and basically destroy this version of themselves. This goes back to my my Insecta Mantra of the Week, Cole, our hero story series that I was doing. Go back a couple of episodes, you'll find it, where Cole is our hero. He was taught by the Mothman. Cole is a shaman. And Cole doesn't have a gender. I was kind of creating monsters of the week that were coming to this dimension, and Cole was kind of the savior or the hero of this dimension. Cole had to fight, and one of the monsters of the week was multiple dimension versions of yourself. I called it wanting yourself. That when multiple dimension versions of yourself kind of put themselves together, it makes them evil. They were jumping dimensions and destroying individual versions of themselves to make a stronger version of themselves that became evil, and Cole had to fight them. So this will kind of relate to that. When these scientists that go missing or mysteriously being killed, they've essentially been destroyed or disappeared by another, stealing from Community again, darker timeline version of themselves. That's what's been going on. That's the fictional version. That's the horror, the suspense version, alien version of what's going on in this story. That's my first story idea. So the second story idea, based off these missing or mysterious deaths of all these scientists is based off the lead mask of Vintem Hill. The Brazil, there's a story that happened in the 60s where these two, I think they were like, I want to say television repair, like just say electronic engineers, kind of had a mysterious death where they were found on this hill after this rainstorm with these weird lead masks on their face. One of my favorite mystery stories to always revisit. And even with my Monster of the Week story, I took that real story that happened and turned it into a Monster of the Week that was called Domo Como. It was this yokai where those two Brazilian engineers, in my fictional story, they had received a signal and they were doing this kind of ritual to jump universes or jump dimensions, and an accident happened, and in kind of an in-between realm, they were fused together in this one yokai that was called Domo Como, that was kind of always at war with each other, but they were physically connected like Siamese twins. So it was causing all these disturbances over the universes and dimensions, and Cole had to save them. I kind of really like that story, so go back and listen to it. Monster of the Week, Domo Como. So in this, it related to that. In my second fictional story to explain what's going on with all these missing scientists, it's kind of like that. They, similar to the first one, they, like with the signal, with their research, they received the signal. They received instructions through, if there was quantum computing or research with UFOs, they received the signal from another dimension, another universe. They realize it's like a mirror universe or something like that. And they're given instructions on how to basically jump universes. And they don't know if this is like related to the first one, if this is an evil version or something beyond the pale that's telling them to do bad things. But like one does it and kind of confirms they've basically jumped out of this universe to another universe, and they kind of relay the message to these other scientists. That's why it happened to one, then it happened to another, but it has to happen in this kind of mysterious way to basically throw everyone off. Like the deaths are like really mysterious. Like I think one of the scientists or one of the researchers, like with top secret clearance, was shot and killed by one of his former co-workers or research partners in the university or something, like randomly, and they can't figure out why. I think they took their own life also. It's been crazy. This one was like one of the scientists, she was hiking with a group, and they turned around and literally she was gone. There's been no trace of her. The one that I was talking about earlier, Melissa C.S., her phones were wiped. So in the fictional story, like they're given instructions through technology, like your phones. That's why her phone was wiped, or whatever quantum computing research they was doing. They received the instructions, but it has to be these weird, mysterious instructions. Going back to the real life case in Brazil in 1960, they were wearing these weird lead eye masks. They were up on this hill during a rainstorm. They, had to take these weird, mysterious pills. They had to do this at a certain time. And there was also UFO sightings around that same time with like explosions in the sky. So that's why I said the fictional story about this one, they received the signal, and the signal to them was instructions on how to basically jump this dimension or this universe or this existence. That's the second story idea. Third one kind of relates to that, and it's the whole, this is a simulation. Our reality right now, our shared consciousness, our life on Earth, everything that we're going through right now is some kind of simulation. And these scientists, these researchers, scientists with UFOs and all that stuff, like all these weird happenings, they've figured out the signal they received in this third idea is on how to basically jump out of the simulation. They've seen beyond the veil, and the veil is the reality of this is a simulation. They can pull back, from the Matrix and all that stuff. We're in a computer simulation, and the reality is, this way post-apocalyptic reality when we're all batteries and all that stuff like that. Maybe not that bleak for my story, but they've realized, they've seen the reality. They've seen the computer, the simulation, the high, quantum computing. That's what quantum computing creates, is a simulation for all of us. And we're just in this constant simulation that's going round and round and round. And the reality is much years later, we're being kept alive this way, or we're simulating the simulation we're in is like an algorithm of what quantum computing can do. It can run a whole bunch of simulations to find the answer or something. We're just some weird algorithm that's floating around somewhere in a huge quantum, AI high computing thing. And these scientists have seen that, and they've lack of a better term, figured out the cheat code to get out of it. And that's why they have these weird, mysterious disappearings or mysterious deaths, or the way they just vanish. They figured out, like I said, lack of a term, cheat code to get out. They've seen that it's a simulation, and from their research, they figured out how to jump out of it. That's why they've vanished or been mysteriously killed. They have their different ways of, and maybe timing. They have to do something at a certain time and all that. So that's my third idea. They've seen that it's a simulation, and they figured out how to get out of it. Figured out how to get out the loop, the circular algorithm that we're all stuck in. Elon Musk was right, but no, he wasn't. Elon Musk sucks. Yeah, that's my 3 story ideas to explain these missing scientists, instead of going crazy myself and deep diving into the conspiracy theory, or finding out the reality that's probably really boring. It's just a law of large numbers. These people, there's probably, if you look at it, hundreds of thousands of people that work in these top secret environments or have clearance or working in this type of research. People are going to pass, unfortunately, before what we think of their time, or at a young age, or mysteriously, because we don't know the truth. We don't know everything that goes on. There's probably multiple layers to deep dive in. But like I said, I don't want to deep dive because I don't want to find the truth and go missing myself, or find the boring truth. I like to stay kind of on the outer rim of it, so I can come up with the fantasy, keep the fantasy alive. Don't, find out the truth, keep the fantasy alive, and create stories, weird stories like this. This is what keeps you going in the dark times which we are actually living in. So yeah, those are my 3 ideas. I needed to get a podcast episode out of this. I've been scratching at the back of my head, and I've been procrastinating so much with good reason, but I'm trying to push myself. This is me pushing myself to take the dark times and make them creative, because that's what artists and writers and poets should do. All the ones that came before me. So thank you for listening. Before I start rambling, I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Late. If you ever want to look me up online, look at my Substack, Kirk on a Budget. Also, the Instagram for this podcast, Dumb Test Slate. You can find stuff on there. I really need to update. I'm trying to push myself to writing, do things, atomic habit, things of writing small stuff every day to build up a big portfolio, I should say. I'm trying to I really want to, because it's late spring now, but there's a baseball story I want to write. I have the ending, which sucks. So I need to do everything else. I kind of have the ending and maybe the beginning, which means I have a lot more work to do. Maybe I'll kind of like spitball or come up with ideas and scenes on this podcast. Because one thing I want to add to this podcast is called I think I did it last time. It's called Stuck Scenes. Or no, in media res. Where I literally just read out a scene that I've written. That's just in the middle of a story. I love that term, in media res. I'll do that the next episode. Who knows how long it'll be. But thanks for listening. I'm still Kirk. This is Dumb Test. Like, be nice to each other. Love thy neighbor. Do something great for yourselves so you can do something great for someone else. Bye-bye.